First of all, thank you all for coming out this morning to hear me talk. Hopefully it will be good. I'm not sure I would agree on the expert part, but that's my own humility. So I have my own company. It's called StormCellar. We're based in Venice, and we do three things: narrative marketing strategy, creative execution, and team visioning work. And you'll find out a little bit more about the different things we do throughout this talk this morning. So the other piece I guess I should give is a little bit of background is I used to work in the film industry, which is maybe why I have a little bit of experience with pitching. So I spent about 10 years as an animation producer. I started at Disney, and my last gig was at Nickelodeon, where I was a supervising producer before my first kid was born, after which I left to go and get into marketing. So I have my crib notes here. Before we start, I figured it'd be a good idea to set a baseline of what pitching actually is, or maybe I should say what I think pitching is. And pitching ultimately is sharing information to achieve a desired outcome. Pretty simple baseline, right? We could complex it up all we want, but at the end of the day, when I pitch you something, I should have an outcome in mind, and I should be trying to get you to come over to that outcome. That's what we're going to be working on today, and hopefully I can give you some knowledge that will be helpful. Before we go any further, I'd like you to take a second. I want you to turn to the person on your left or right, whoever's sitting next to you, or those of you who are standing. I want you to tell them three things: your name, the job title that's on your business card, and why you're here. You have 30 seconds. Go.
Really? What company? Oh, that's hot. We are too. What office?
Our office is in Washington,
Okay, yeah, we're right here in Pasadena. What hierarchy are you on?
30 seconds goes pretty fast, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Jamie Hill.
It was. I have a good spot in my head.
Is it too loud?
All right, before we go any further, I do always like to get a sense of who the audience is. So anyone here in marketing?
Good, yeah.
Anyone here in sales? Anyone here looking for funding? Anyone here looking for a gig? Anyone looking for Nirvana? All right, perfect. All right, we're all going to be fine then. All right, so I'm going to give you a baseline, at least, which is my understanding of what brand is, because brand infuses everything that should be part of your pitch, from my perspective. This is what guides all the pitching that we do at my company, and it's what guides my philosophy. And my goal today is to give you 15 tips that I found work when I pitch. So, what is brand? Brand, from my perspective, incredibly simple. It's the promises you've made and the expectations others have of you as a result. Think about that. Everything you say, everything you do is an implied or explicit promise to someone. It's a promise of what you can do for them, a promise of what you can deliver, a promise of a benefit that they're going to receive. You create an expectation as a result, and your ability to deliver on that expectation is what drives success or failure. It's what guides your pitch, and it should be what guides everything that you do, both as a brand and as an individual. So, rule number one, or principle, we'll call them principles. Know your funnel. I just asked all of you to introduce yourself to someone. Did you have an intent in mind when you introduced yourself? Were you trying to make an impression? No, right? I set you guys up. It's okay. You weren't supposed to. When I first meet people, I always get asked the same question, more or less. What do you do? Right? We all get that same question, more or less? I always answer the same way. I have my own company. We do narrative marketing strategy, team visioning, and creative execution work. Approximately 70% of the people who will hear that answer will ask me one question next. What's the question?
What do you really do?
No. You know, it's fascinating. You would think that people would say, what the heck does that actually mean? But they don't. They asked me a different question. I'll answer it again. I have my own company. We do strategy, team visioning, and execution. No, nobody asked me the name. You guys jumped ahead. Because the next question, approximately 70% of the time, how many employees do you have? Think about that for a second. Why would they care how many employees I have? Ah, success, right? Because if I don't have any employees, I'm basically telling them one of two things. I suck, and I'm not good enough to build a company that can have employees, or I'm unemployed. Which I discovered back when I first started as a consultant that saying you were a consultant was in fact a euphemism for being unemployed, right? Unfortunately, I didn't realize that when I first would go to networking events and I would introduce myself as a marketing consultant, and I kept thinking, God, there are a lot of consultants out there. There's a lot of competition. Later I figured out what that really meant. So I always answer the question the same way. Well, right now I only have one full-time employee. Now, if you think about what they respond to that, or their response, I'm now down here, like Crash 29, their perception of me, because I've now told them, oh my God, this guy's incompetent. That's when they ask me the last question, which is, hey, do you have any clients I've heard of? And we say, well, you might have heard of some of them. Microsoft, Starbucks, Google, Expedia, Aflac, Ubisoft, Sony Pictures, Nickelodeon, should I keep going? All right, so now I'm up here, right? But the important part of this, the reason why this is related to knowing your funnel, isn't the answer that I give and the result that I get. It's that I know how everything I say will be received. I could answer, what do you do differently? I could answer, how many employees do you have differently? I could say 12. There are times when I'll have 60. Depending on the size of the project, but they're all freelancers. I choose to answer the way I do because it gets me a result that works for me. I know the funnel, and I know exactly how people will respond as I pitch. That's why it's the very first principle. Second principle, nobody cares. Seriously, whoever you're pitching does not care what you have to say. Now, it could be perceived as a negative thing, right? Oh man, Kevin's such a downer. But actually it's not. And the reason it's not is because it's your job to make them care. And when you approach a pitch, remember, desired outcome, thinking that somebody else shares your desired outcome. You have outsourced responsibility for your own success. Instead, you need to go in and assume that they don't care what you have to say. In fact, they don't really care about even being in the meeting with you half the time. And I don't care whether this is pitching to get a job, pitching at a first networking event, or pitching because you're with the VC. They're looking for a reason to walk out the door. Hiring you or engaging you is risk. Why should they take the risk of engaging with you? It's your job to make it clear to them. And if you guys remind me when we get to the Q&A, there's a simple trick that I use for doing decks, and I'll show you what that is. So that's principle number 2. All right, number 3. It's your job to connect the dots for your customers. I see so many decks and so many presentations where they don't actually connect the dots. They kind of leave it implied. Now, you could argue it's because they haven't thought through how their funnel's going to operate. Or it could be out of laziness. It depends. I'm going to say I'm a fairly positive person. I think it's because they just don't do that work. But you have to connect the dots for your investor, for your potential employer, for a potential employee even. And the dots are really pretty simple, and I wrote them down so I'd make sure I get it exactly correct here. You need to make sure that you've articulated the offering that you have, why it will work in the context of the market you're going to present it in, to seize an opportunity that only you can execute that will lead to growth. Those are the dots that everyone wants answered. You miss one of those, you miss why you're able to execute, you miss what the opportunity is, clearly articulating what the opportunity is. You fail to communicate growth. Now it's up to me to decide what growth looks like. You don't want to leave that in my hands. Success is around controlling the funnel. Eliminate as many variables as you can. Principle number 4. The need motivates the search, but they engage based on who you are. I'm based in Venice Beach. I do marketing and branding work, and I do creative work. Think about that for a second. I'm like a walking cliche. I am the services my company provides are entirely commoditized. I could stand on the roof of my office building, throw a stone, and I could probably take out like 20 people who offer similar things that I do. And that's with my eyes closed, so I don't have to aim, mind you. And of course, I do creative work in LA, right? Who here has a screenplay they're trying to sell, right? Everybody. If I go out and I sell what I do, I'm missing the point. People engage with me and my company, and I've been able to build that client list of ours because of who I am and the values that I represent and my unique ability to solve the problems for them. So I don't go out and I don't sell solutions. I sell a way of achieving solutions. And this is probably more from an oral pitch perspective. Obviously, if you're in front of an investor, you don't want to keep it that high level. Investors are going to want to drill down if you're out trying to get funding. That being said, an investor wants to understand why you are going to be able to succeed. Because everybody's trying to get money. So, principle number 5. Oh my God. I'm the guru. Oh, wait. Don't overpromise. Anyone here flying United Airlines? Yeah. You can see where this is going. Raise your hand up high. Okay. Anyone know what United Airlines' big ad campaign tagline is? What is it? Fly the friendly skies, right? Yeah. So does anybody actually think that that tagline's valid based on their experience of flying United? Right, United's not a client. I always feel bad dissing on them. It overpromises. Anyone here fly Southwest Airlines? Feel like you get what you pay for on Southwest? Yeah. Stark contrast. When you fly Southwest, you're flying on a bus. It happens to have wings. You're going to stop various places. It's not going to smell great, right? And it's going to be crowded. But that's what you're paying for. When you overpromise to someone in your pitch, you set up an expectation, right, of an outcome. And when you fail to deliver, even if it's incremental failure, it's a lot farther to fall. Don't overpromise. And I see it all the time in decks. I see it all the time in pitches. I see it in people in their marketing materials where they pronounce themselves the guru or the expert. You don't get to call yourself the guru or the expert. Someone else has to do that. I can't tell you, and you'll see if you ever go on my company's website, in my bio, you'll never see that I'm an expert at anything. I just do the best I can, and I may have expertise. I strive to be an expert, but I am not an expert, and neither should you. Yeah?
Give an example of overpromise.
I will, but let me get through these and then ask me that question when we get to the Q&A, because I was given strict instructions. All right. They decide on the experience, not you. So I went to a workshop, this was back in the summer. This guy is this renowned motivational speaker, apparently. And all through the workshop, he's like pacing back and forth. He's got so much energy. I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to tell you things you didn't know, right? He keeps priming the audience. Now, if you're like me, you're sitting there going, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Let's go, bring it on. Tell me the thing I don't know. Blow my mind. And guess what happened? He didn't blow my mind. It actually had the exact opposite effect. And the curious thing is I did an informal survey afterwards. I started going up to people and saying, hey, so did you get anything that you've never heard before from this guy? No. Nobody did. And yet, all of his marketing material and all through the pitch, he's telling me how he's going to change my world. You don't get to decide their experience for them. They have to decide it for themselves. And that leads me to the next principle, which is that you should never assume you know what keeps people up at night. I see this, again, all the time, where people will go into a pitch meeting and they'll start talking about all the problems that the organization has. And they forget to do kind of an important thing. Just ask, what do you think the problems are? Because the problems that you think they're worried about may in fact not be the problems that they are in reality worried about. And your failure to connect with what's actually concerning them can kill your pitch immediately. Not only because you could be pitching the wrong solution or the wrong offering, but just as importantly, you might be pitching something that is so off the mark that it reflects that you don't understand the company to begin with. You've got to ask them what concerns you. And it's fascinating, anyone here see Wolf of Wall Street? So, Justin Belfort's remade himself as a motivational speaker, right? And so after I saw the movie, I was looking to see kind of how has he remade himself. And it was interesting, the sell me this pen, right? There's that kind of recurring gag, right? So he was on Pierce Morgan, and Pierce said, okay, sell me this pen, right? So he gives him the pen, and and it was great because what did he say? He said, you see a lot of high-pressure salespeople, they'll come in and they'll just start making stuff up. Try to sell the pen. He's like, that's not how you sell the pen. First question you ask is, so how long have you been in the market for a pen? What do you use a pen for? Tell me about some of the things you like about a pen. Qualify the lead. It's amazing how often people want to just leapfrog that step and go straight to the sale without ever doing the qualification. But I can tell you, the better you qualify the lead, the more effective your pitch will be, and the better the outcome will be. And again, why are we pitching? We want the desired outcome. All right. Oh, this is a good one. So I get a call a couple months ago from a salesman. He wants to sell my company a marketing automation solution that we could resell to our clients. So everyone knows marketing automation, right? So it's a direct marketing tool. Does everyone know what that is? MailChimp would be like the slimmed down, most common example. It's email marketing systems, and you can kind of automate it. You can send out bulk mail, whatever, right? This is when I should point out that one of our clients, we worked on the launch for Microsoft Dynamics, which is an ERP and CRM solution for Microsoft. So I'm fairly well versed in CRMs and marketing automation. So the guy starts into his pitch to me, talking to me about this and sharing all the amazing things that their product does, which of course every product does, and telling me all the breakthrough technology that they've got, which of course I already know all of this and has been out on the market for several years. And so I start kind of going, so talk to me about this and talk to me about this. And finally I said, so, how does this integrate? And so it's basically what you're talking about is like a slimmed down CRM. It's like, and there's just this silence. Because I knew more about his product and its limitations and capabilities than he did. And I didn't know anything about his product. But I knew the market. I knew the competitive landscape. If you're going to go in and pitch somebody, and it startles me when people will do this, they won't know every competitor in their market. Like, really? You would go out and try to sell someone a CRM solution and not know the relative strengths and weaknesses of Epicor and NetSuite and Dynamics and Oracle solution and an SAP solution? Like, you would really do that? And the answer is yes, people will. I don't know why, but if you're going to try to convince someone that they should invest in your company, that they should invest in you, you have to demonstrate the clear knowledge and understanding of the competitive landscape that you're trying to get them to trust you to dominate. Because that's why they're giving you the money in the first place. Or if they're hiring you as an employee, they're hiring you because you're going to make their company more successful. They need to trust that you can deliver for them what they need. That's the goal of the pitch. That should be the outcome. Not give me your money or give me your job. This is a simple one. Hey, you know what? There's PowerPoint killers coming out on the market all the time. And I'm just going to state this bluntly. Great graphics will not replace lousy content. That's a simple one. All right. The soft sell. Okay, now granted, I grew up on the West Coast, and all of my clients are on the West Coast. So those of you who do a lot of work on the East Coast, this may not work. But I'm a big believer in the soft sell. What does the soft sell look like? I'm going to give you a great example. So my company, we're vendors at Microsoft. We've been working with Microsoft Business Systems on the positioning creative for the launch of Dynamics. A friend of mine says, oh, you're doing work with Microsoft. I'm going to introduce you to this other friend of mine. I don't even know what she does. You should meet her. Great. So one of my business trips up, we get together, we have coffee. This goes on, over like a 6-month period. First 6 months, she never actually asked me what we did. Never asked. And guess what? I never told her. Why? She didn't care. She didn't care. That was a good conversation. We talked, frankly, we talked mostly about stuff that she was working on. We talked about our mutual connections in the film business. I built trust with her, and I built a relationship with her. But I never sold her anything. But here's the great part of the ending of the story, which is, finally, after, 3 or 4 coffees, she goes, so what do you guys do anyway? Well, if you want, I can tell you. Sure. 30 seconds into watching our reel, she said, great, I know who you need to meet. We should start trying to find a project to work on together. 2 months later, we started working with her business unit. It was a long funnel. I would not necessarily recommend that for everyone. But the important part is people don't want to be sold as a general rule. What they want is they want to find someone who they can trust and who has demonstrated an understanding of what they need or an understanding of what it takes to succeed in this case. During our coffee meetings, that was the job that I did. I clarified, I got 5 minutes. Okay, great. Oh, we're good. We're on number 10. Okay. We're going to make it. So, soft sell. Wait for the hard sell. It's going to serve you a lot better. All right. Sell the brand, not the product. Should be fairly obvious at this point that this is something that I believe pretty strongly in. Right? When I go into meetings, half the time I don't know who I'm meeting with. I had a meeting last week. Actually, I had several meetings last week at companies you've heard of with GMs. I actually had no idea what their portfolio was. And one of them, in fact, asked me, so Kevin, how can your company help us? Like, I don't know what you do. Now, it's not because I'm an idiot. I have LinkedIn. I can figure out what the guy does. It's because I don't want to bias myself when I go into the meeting. I want to be there to listen to exactly what he cares about and what's on his mind. And the less I know, the less biased I am, the less judgment I bring to that decision. Principle number 12. There's always a naysayer. We were trying to get funding for an independent film. Development producer put together a budget, sent it off to the financier sends it to the line producer, the seasoned guy. We get on the phone. He spends 10 minutes ripping this budget apart before we even said hello. This is incompetent. This is the stupidest budget I don't even know where this comes from. 10 minutes goes by. There's a long pause. He's waiting for me to defend it. And I go, I don't feel like you're being honest with me about how you feel. I mean, I feel like you're kind of holding back, and I don't know, maybe you like this budget, maybe you think it's a valid budget, maybe you don't. I can't tell. He pauses, cracks up laughing, turns to the financier and he goes, oh, this guy's going to be easy to work with. Co-opt the naysayer. Don't fight them. Because especially in a public environment, remember, their job is to shoot you down. That's what they're coming into the meeting to do, is to find the flaw in your offering, find the hole in your pitch. If you can show them that you understand and in fact know where the holes are, I know it was a crappy budget. You buy trust. Trust is the key to engagement. Principle 14, this is for all of you who are out trying to find financing for your company. Everybody thinks they're going to be the next Airbnb, Uber, or Snapchat. That's not terribly unique. All right, there we go. Principle number 14. A complicated pitch is a bad pitch. It's actually really, really, really simple. And I wrote it down so I get it exactly correct. And we learned it in 3rd grade. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Your pitch basically needs to cover 6 things. You don't need to spend like 6 slides educating them about the market opportunity. You don't need to spend 10 slides talking about, the minutiae. You need to answer these things. Who's going to use it? What you're going to make. That should be obvious, right? Where the opportunity lies. Well, when it makes money. Everyone wants to know when it makes money. Why people will care about it versus other things that are on the market. And how come you can trust us to deliver. That's it. Simple. And the last one, and this one, it's funny, I made a lot of money off this one, which is you got to go to your audience. You got to speak to them in a language that they can understand. And I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. We were approached by a company that were an after developer to do some creative work for them. The guy who runs the company, he's in his mid-30s, he's a former rapper, constantly talking in slang and whatnot. And so we're on the phone, and I'm talking to him about the work that we do, and he's having trouble kind of deciding whether he wants to engage with our company. Finally, I look and I go, you just want people, when they look at this video, to say, man, this app is dope. Right? And he goes, oh my God, you totally get what we need. He goes, yeah, all right, great. All right, you're hired. One word. One word. Because I went to him to value what's important to him and to connect to it. And that's ultimately the way you achieve the outcome that you want. You have to go to your customer and you have to find out the words that are meaningful to them. You have to find the context that's meaningful to them so that you can build trust with them. And ultimately, when you build trust, that motivates people to want to engage. And that helps you get to the desired outcome. How did I do? 15 minutes? Am I on schedule?
Okay, so we'll open up the Q&A now. I'm going to pass the mic to John. Stand up, say your name, what your company is, and ask a question. I'd like to ask you to not give advice to the speaker.
Oh, I'll take advice.
Or promote. We're not trying to promote your business. We want to ask questions. So.
World Mission Academy. Kevin, we talked about the proposition, in other words, the mottos and things. So what was the motto for this presentation?
For this one right here?
Yeah, yours.
Oh, for mine? There's nothing but motto with it.
It's like,
There's my bad Warner Brothers blood.
What was it? So, other people, you said people blow your mind. What was your thought process coming into the presentation?
So my thought process, that's a great question. My thought process coming into this is what would be helpful to people. One of the things that's really important to me is to be of value. I try to be of value to my clients. And in fact, the thing I tell my clients all the time is my job is to make you look good. That's actually my sole job. It doesn't matter what it is you've engaged me to do. So my objective here was to share with people who were listening what I feel works so that maybe it can help them look good. Can I answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, what you say and what I say, what I feel is different, right?
Well, of course, I can't tell you what you got. Oh, while he's going, so the trick on No One Cares for your decks, I use this all the time, and it works, right? So what you got to do is you put up a slide. We all build our slides, right? You got to, I don't care whether you use Prezi or PowerPoint, Keynote, it doesn't really matter. Step back from the computer, close your eyes. Try to imagine that you just walked into the room and you have no idea what's happening. Right? It's a little bit tricky, but literally try to go, okay, I've just walked in to this meeting. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know who the person is. I don't know what they're trying to sell me. Then open your eyes and just look at the slide, and what's the first thing you see? Do you know why you're there? And then do that for every slide in your deck. If you find that the slide goes, oh, well, you have to have seen the slide before it, that slide needs to be deleted. Because you, A, don't know. Half the time I'll be in meetings where someone walks in late, right? Half the time people are multitasking anyway. They got their phone, they got their tablet, they've got their computer out. You know, who knows what they're doing. If you're me, you've got a piece of paper and a pen and you're doodling, right? That's the way you do it. And the key is if that slide doesn't stand on its own and tell an entire story on its own, then that slide should be cut. There you go. And then you'd asked if I could give an example of something that I don't remember.
Well, it's overpromising. I want you to just slip it in.
Oh, overpromising. Well, so obviously, United is such a great example. Let me think of a better one. Let me get back to that. I got to think of it. You want like an individual one?
Well, no, I was just thinking, so as you're talking about don't overpromise and say, for example, so everybody knows the difference between what's a reasonable promise and what's
Got it. Okay, so, okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so on the subject of overpromising, so it's actually slightly why I bookend United with Southwest, right? So it's about promising experience. So, but even if for me, like when I go in and meet with people, right, when I talk about what my company can do, we'll never tell you, or here's, actually, you know what, I've got a great one. Anyone get the robocalls of, hey, we'll get you #1 on Google? Anyone ever seen those? Right? Yeah, the SEO, those kind of shady SEO firms. Yeah, you'll be #1 on Google. Right? Yeah, I know you won't. Maybe for your name, but you're not going to be #1 on Google. So overpromising, in fact, takes on a lot of different dimensions, right? So there's the obvious, the really blatant example of overpromising, which is, I'm going to promise you you're going to, the sun, moon, and stars, buy this course and I guarantee you'll make millions of dollars, right? So there's kind of the extreme overpromising. Or there's just the overpromising of, hey, we're going to be able to solve all the problems. Right? We're going to do this and this and this and this and this, and you're going to love it. Well, most likely you're not going to be able to do all of the things if you overpromise. Maybe you're only going to be able to do some of them, or you only do some of them to a certain point. So it's a nuance component of how you position your story, of what you know you can deliver. But I never tell someone we're going to deliver amazing creative. I never tell someone this is going to be an award-winning video, or this website's going to have certain results for you. Because I can't know those things. What I can do is I can give you the best work that we can do and that makes you happy, and that meets the needs of your team and what we think meets the needs of your company. And so it feels like a kind of a waffling answer, actually, now that I think about it. But, I don't want to overpromise.
Hi, my name is Evan from a company called Logical Reality. When you talked about co-opting the naysayers, you gave only one example, which was basically cracking a joke to bring them into your camp. Can you elaborate more on the general technique of bringing in naysayers?
Naysayers that's a great question. How do you co-opt naysayers? Well, so obviously I tend to rely on comedy. That's my sort of go-to place, how I deal with stress or anxious situations. There are a lot of ways you can co-opt a naysayer. I think the first part is to understand, and again, this gets back into the pitch component, right? What's the desired outcome? Is to understand what's motivating that naysayer to shoot you down. Now, obviously, we're going to go from a place where the naysayer is maybe focusing on something that shouldn't be the focus. If you have a huge hole in your presentation and they drive a truck through it and you're not aware of it, then they might be right for being a naysayer. So we're gonna sort of exclude that scenario for the moment. We're gonna focus on when you are buttoned up and their job is to find the holes, and they view themselves. Frequently, there will be someone in the pitch meeting who views themselves as the gatekeeper, right? Who views themselves, and their perspective on themselves is to protect the company, protect the team, protect the whatever the company may be, the organization, right? So first off, your job is you got to figure out who that person is at the beginning of the pitch. Now, I was lucky in my instance. I knew who that person was because I knew his role in the organization, which was to validate our budget. So I know as soon as you're getting to the person who's validating the budget, that person's job is to find all the problems. So first you have to identify who that person is. And when you're in a room of 6, 7 people, sometimes that can be really hard. It's hard to figure out who's driving the meeting, who's the decision maker, who's the impediment. Because they may, and frankly, in a well-organized team, they will not always be the same person. In a well-organized team, they'll all be different. They'll distribute those responsibilities. So then you got to figure out, okay, so this person's the naysayer. What do they think is their leading edge for shooting us down? So in the case that I gave, his was that his goal was to prove that we'd put together an incompetent budget, which of course it was. We had no storyboards. I mean, this is basically like, yeah, we think we can make it for this much money. But what they're really looking, half the time, in my experience, what the naysayer is looking for is, how do you respond to the criticism? Criticism is a tool to figure out whether you're trustworthy or not. Criticism isn't necessarily a tool to shoot you down, but part of what they're looking for is, does this person understand where the weaknesses are in their story? And then how do they respond to it? And then in terms of how you engage with them, there are a myriad of ways, and it's all based on sort of how you fit into the room and how you connect with them. But you can't do it correctly until you've identified what it is that their goal is, and what it is that they think will matter. Did I answer your question? It's hard for me to get. I mean, it's like if you want to give me a specific scenario, then I could probably focus it down more into a naysayer. And honestly, I mean, there have been times where I've walked out of a meeting. So we were pitching a big aerospace company, and it was clear that it wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't interested, and I said, you know what? It doesn't seem like this is going to work. You're not interested in what we do, and I don't want to waste your time. So. I've been in all sort of spectrums. I've always found that the naysayer can be co-opted, but it's all an EQ issue. What motivates them? What drives them? And half the time, it's if they're saying no, instead of pushing back, it's saying, "Sounds like you're really concerned about this. Can you articulate for me, kind of what's concerning you, and maybe I can answer your question, or if I can't, don't lie. Say, you know what? That's a great question." Validate them. Let me get back to you with an answer that will really address that, because we hadn't thought of that, or I'm not prepared for that, or that's a consideration we hadn't made. So it just depends on kind of the specifics of your situation.
Great presentation. One last quick question I have for you. So we're a room of 100 plus innovators here based in Pasadena, entrepreneurs. Is there anything, you've shared with us those 15 principles, is there anything us as a group or individually here as in the group can we do to help you?
Keep innovating. Yeah. Because my company is dependent on companies like yours and people like you who actually do innovate. And specifically, look, we're always looking for referrals. half the time we're looking for talent, looking for advisor roles to play with companies that are interesting. But my biggest thing would be just keep doing what you're doing. And if you like this presentation, hey, tell people about us. That's all I can ask.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's get a picture with you here.
Awesome, great.
All right, you ready, everybody? Let's get some photo bombs in the back. All right, your marks, get set, focus, and go. Perfect, thank you, everybody. Great to see you this week. We'll see you next week.